Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you the top 5 books that I read this winter. So how this video is formatted is that I'll go over all the books that I read over the months of December, January, and February, and at the end I will kind of talk about the books that made my top 5 list. And I feel like this winter in particular there was a good variety of genres as well, so that always makes it exciting. So without further ado, let's get started. So starting in December, I first read Jade City by Fonda Lee, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. A World of Curiosities by Louise, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. At First Light by Barbara Nickless, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. And A Very Fiona Christmas, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Moving on to January, I first read Gilded and Cursed by Marissa Meyer, which I gave a 3 and a 4 out of 5 stars. Have I Told You This Already by Lauren Graham, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. These Stories We Tell by Joanna, which I gave a 1 out of 5 stars. Dark of Night by Barbara Nickless, which I gave a 2 out of 5 stars. And Jade War by Fonda Lee, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. So moving on to February, I first read Spare by Prince Harry, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars to. Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. The Family Bones by Elle Marr, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. The Some of Us by Heather McGhee, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. And lastly, Beach Read by Emily Henry, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. So starting up, I first have A World of Curiosities by Louise. Obviously this book has to be there. The Inspector Gamache series is my favorite book, a book series of all time, and so I always get excited when a new book comes out. So this is one that I got from the library. I currently have all the books in paperback and I just want to keep it that way, so once this book comes out on paperback I'll have a physical copy. So right now you just have to stick with the photo here, but I loved it. I feel like each book always brings something new, and it just feels like coming back home when I read this series, especially because I feel like I marathoned the bulk of this series during COVID within the span of like a year or so, a year and a half. So I'm just very deeply invested in these characters, and they always seem ever evolving, and I really like the sense of kind of the themes of found family that play a prominent role in this series. I still haven't watched Three Pines. I know, I feel like I should watch it, and some of you guys have asked me if I watched it. As of this when I'm filming it, I haven't watched it yet, but I think after I finish my dissertation I will. But yeah, eventually I'll get to it. But this was the newest installment. It basically, Myrna finds this kind of hidden room within her apartment or her loft above the bookstore, and there is this mysterious painting that's in there, and it kind of gets all interconnected with kind of a past storyline as well with Gamache. And I love the interweaving of the two kind of narrations of the present day murder in addition to the one that is kind of has taken place several years ago. So I loved kind of the merging of those two storylines. I just love the whole thing, and I just, like I said, it feels like I'm coming back home, and obviously this one was definitely one of the highlights of the year in terms of new releases for 2022. Next up, this is a series overall because I marathoned all the books in this trilogy over the course of the winter, and it is the Greenbone Saga trilogy by Fonda Lee, and I love this. This is a series that was recommended to me by my boyfriend. Sorry, the wind kind of blew my door shut. And I really liked it. It was definitely me stepping outside my comfort zone, but I'm definitely happy that I did, and this is definitely one of my favorite newer fantasy series. So essentially we follow the Cal family, which is like they're the prominent kind of essentially like mobster family within this fictional island of Kekong, and on this island they are the world's only resource of jade, which people who are susceptible to it can essentially be basically given superpowers. So they can have like super speed, or they can kind of perceive other people's emotions, or kind of like all this other stuff. So you can see how this can be valuable, and this trilogy overall follows this family over the course of 3 to 4 decades. So especially within the last book, you do a lot of time jumps as you follow this family through the course of this series. And the first book really much is focused on Kong, the island itself, and kind of the interpolitics within rival gangs. And then in the second book, the scope just gets so much bigger. The author introduces the global scale, and just with each book, it just gets bigger and bigger. I would say this leans more, even though it has like fantastical elements, I kind of think it leads towards a kind of urban fantasy with a lot of political intrigue. And so that did really kind of keep it like really exciting, especially when you're kind of getting different viewpoints and like points of views that at the time don't really see how they are connected, but everything is very much interconnected at the end, which I really enjoy. It was really heartbreaking following this family. This author does not shy away from killing characters, so like every time the stakes were high, I was very anxious because I knew like a character could die, and I think that's, you know, keeps it really exciting and on my toes. And just kind of following this family for the course of several decades was just a lot of fun, and I think the time jumps were done really well. So I'm happy this is a series that I gave, you know, I tried and I really enjoyed it. Next up, I have Cursed by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Gilded duology, and so it is a loose retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. We follow our main character who has kind of been told that she's been cursed by the god of lies because her irises are very different and kind of reflect that of the god of lies. And so she's always been kind of known for telling these elaborate stories. And so when during one of the like full moons, when the elf king comes out, she ends up crossing paths with him, and to get out of that situation she tells the lie that she can spin like straw into gold. And so obviously that sees her as being very valuable, so he ends up kidnapping her the next full moon, and it kind of goes off from there. The first one I gave like a 3.5 stars if I'm remembering correctly. It was really the ending that I really enjoyed with the first book, and I feel like this one I felt like the author just had a better footing with these characters. I felt like the romance was much more believable, and I was really invested in the characters and how everything panned out. I do think the first book had some like pacing issues and all that, and I feel like a lot of this is really addressed in this one. I just really grew to really love the two main characters, and they're watching their romance grow, and just the situation they're in. Like, I felt very anxious over everything that they were going through, and I feel like this one again is very heartbreaking, but I really enjoyed it. I think this is a solid retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. I've never really heard the original fairy tale, but I really liked this retelling. I think Marissa Meyer does she's really good at retellings, and this is her first kind of foray into kind of the darker adult side to retellings, which I really enjoyed. I think she really found her footing here, and I can't wait to see what other retelling she does in the future. Next up, I have Spare by Prince Harry, and I just like to preface this saying I love drama. I don't like to be a part of drama, but I like other people's drama, and so I was really excited when this book came out. In addition to having like a physical copy, I was able to get the ebook from the library, and I think that's what I really enjoyed. I think from like, if you look from like a historical point of view, like very few people have had his experience, so kind of pulling the curtain back behind the industry that is the royal family, I thought was really interesting, and just like all of that stuff I just think is very interesting. He's had a very unique life, and I loved kind of reading about it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I like gossip, I love drama, I love all that stuff, so this book was like right up my alley. I know a lot of people did not like this, and I know just Prince Harry in general and Meghan always have like kind of controversy surrounding them, but I thought this book was good. Like, I think people should have the opportunity to tell their side of the story and control their narrative, and kind of leave it all out on the table. So I think that is very valid. I think people need to be able to do that with their life, and so I really enjoyed this. I think the audiobook is the way to go, because especially for like the middle part of the book, it leans a lot towards his military experience and his career in that, and so I found that to be a little bit boring, but I think the audiobook kind of made me enjoy it a little bit more so yeah, like I said, I did enjoy this. It was a little bit like I said, I loved all the drama, so I was totally here for it, but the military part, obviously it means a lot to him and having that experience, but it was just for me, it was a little too much, but regardless, I still really enjoyed this book overall. And lastly, this is probably by far probably by far the best book that I read this season, and it is Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. I've had this book on my shelf for a while, and it was a book that was recommended to me by my sister, and this was one that I listened to the audiobook. You can tell kind of in the start of 2023 I really got into nonfiction audiobooks, and so this was one that I picked up, and I think this is a book that everyone needs to read. It was very eye-opening, and I feel like now, especially kind of reading this, I feel like I'm kind of much more aware of how racism is very much integrated into our society, more so than I was prior with all the other books that I've read. But I feel like this one does it in a way that is digestible for all readers, and she presents it in a way that is very readable. And essentially this book talks about the caste systems throughout the world. So obviously the caste system in America, the caste systems created by the Nazis, and the Indian caste system as well. And this book was just very eye-opening, and it made me very mad, especially too, just like how, especially in the US, how people don't want to kind of move on from this, and how still very much people are determined and like dead set on keeping this hierarchical system. And it's just terrible that in 2023 this still exists, and it's just really maddening for me. But I feel like I said, this is probably one of the best books I think I've read that kind of talks about racism in the US. And like I said, she does it in a way that is very accessible to everyone, and I feel like regardless of where your background, she does it in a way that is very easy to read. And I think that's really amazing for this, because I feel like this is a very important topic, and she presents it in a way that it's not off-putting, it's not too academic, it is well researched, but it is, like I said, digestible for the masses. And I just learned so much about kind of hidden racism that, you know, I was aware of, but I've never really like thought about. It was just really thought-provoking, eye-opening, and especially because she's kind of comparing different caste systems, not only about like the US, but with like Nazi Germany, the Indian caste system. I thought that like kind of really created a better picture of how humans create this hierarchical system and the downsides of this. And I just think this is a book that everyone needs to read. I think it's a very important read, and I think, like I said, everyone needs to read this just so that they can be more aware of their unconscious biases, how we can kind of improve the societal like foundations that are so much implemented in our societal foundations. So like I said, this book was very eye-opening. I know why this book has gotten a lot of praise, and like I said, everyone needs to read this. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what books were your favorite this winter season and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.